On June 22, 2025, a date that would forever be etched in the annals of international relations, the world held its breath, unaware of the seismic event about to unfold. The geopolitical landscape was about to be irrevocably altered. Under the cloak of darkness, U.S. military aircraft launched a surprise assault on Iran's nuclear facilities. The operation was executed with precision and speed, catching many off guard and sending shockwaves across the globe. The operation, meticulously planned and strategically executed, was dubbed Midnight Hammer. The name itself hinted at the decisive and forceful nature of the mission. The primary objective of Midnight Hammer aimed to cripple Iran's nuclear program, dismantling key infrastructure and disrupting the nation's capacity to produce nuclear materials. The ultimate goal was to prevent the development of nuclear weapons, a move the U.S. and its allies deemed necessary to maintain global security and stability. The stakes were incredibly high. The White House, in a prepared statement, declared all diplomatic options exhausted, citing years of failed negotiations and broken promises. Framing the strikes as a last resort, the administration emphasized the urgent need to halt Iran's nuclear ambitions, which they believed posed an imminent threat to international peace. Intelligence agencies had cited accelerated uranium enrichment, reaching near weapons-grade levels, as the tipping point, triggering the decision to authorize military action. Stealth bombers, the vanguard of the assault, and long-range missiles, launched from both air and sea, precisely targeted key sites within Iran's nuclear infrastructure. The Pentagon, in a press conference shortly after the strikes, confirmed that all primary objectives were hit, with significant damage inflicted on the targeted facilities. The world reacted with shock. A mixture of disbelief, outrage, and apprehension rippled across nations. While some leaders, primarily those allied with the U.S., cautiously supported the action, acknowledging the perceived threat posed by Iran's nuclear program, others, including key global powers, vehemently warned of a dangerous escalation, fearing a wider conflict and destabilization of the region. Global markets trembled as news spread like wildfire, with stock prices plummeting and investors scrambling to assess the potential economic fallout. News analysts and political commentators feverishly speculated on Iran's next move, debating the potential for retaliation and the long-term consequences of the U.S. strike. The strikes marked a dramatic escalation in the already tense relationship between the U.S. and Iran, pushing the region closer to the brink of war. The event redrew the region's strategic lines, forcing nations to reassess their alliances and security postures in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. The international community braced for Tehran's response, anticipating a swift and decisive reaction to the attack on its sovereign territory. The events of June 22, 2025, set the stage for a new era of confrontation, an era defined by uncertainty, heightened tensions, and the ever-present threat of further escalation. The world waited, uncertain of what would come next, as the future hung precariously in the balance. In a calculated move, the U.S. military launched a series of precision strikes. The targets were not chosen at random, they represented the core of Iran's nuclear infrastructure: Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. These three locations were at the heart of the operation. Fordow, buried deep within a mountain near Qom, was a primary objective. It is Iran's most fortified enrichment facility, designed with layers of protection to withstand potential attacks, making it a difficult target to neutralize. Natanz, considered the centerpiece of Iran's nuclear program, was another key target. It houses thousands of centrifuges in vast, interconnected underground halls, essential for uranium enrichment. The facility's scale and importance made it a high-priority target. Both sites have long been under intense international scrutiny, with inspectors regularly monitoring their activities. They have also been the focus of numerous sabotage attempts, highlighting their vulnerability and strategic importance. Isfahan, meanwhile, serves as Iran's nuclear research and development hub. It is crucial for converting uranium ore into usable forms and supporting the entire nuclear fuel cycle, making it an indispensable part of the program. By striking all three facilities simultaneously, the U.S. aimed to disrupt every stage of Iran's nuclear ambitions. From the initial processing of raw materials to the advanced stages of enrichment, each step was targeted to create maximum disruption. The attacks were meticulously designed to inflict systemic damage across the entire program. The goal was not just a temporary setback but a significant and lasting blow to Iran's nuclear capabilities. Each of these sites represented a critical pillar supporting Iran's nuclear ambitions and strategic goals. The coordinated and simultaneous nature of the strikes sent a clear and unmistakable message. It demonstrated that no part of Iran's nuclear program was beyond reach, or considered safe from potential military action. The U.S. strategy aimed to set back Iran's nuclear timeline by several years, potentially delaying their progress significantly. The world watched with bated breath, eager to see if this decisive blow would effectively curb Iran's nuclear ambitions and alter the geopolitical landscape. Iran's response was immediate. Within hours, the Revolutionary Guard launched ballistic missiles at Udeid Air Base in Qatar, a key U.S. military hub. The attack was both symbolic and strategic, signaling Iran's reach and resolve. Iranian state media declared the operation a success, showing footage of the launches. The missiles damaged infrastructure and forced personnel into shelters, but U.S. officials reported no casualties thanks to early warnings. The world watched as the conflict escalated from airstrikes to direct military exchange. The attack raised fears of a wider regional war and put U.S. allies on edge. The tit-for-tat escalation left both sides on high alert. The question, would the U.S. retaliate further or pause to reassess? The stakes had never been higher. The region braced for what might come next. In Washington, the aftermath of the strikes reverberated through the halls of power. The controversial strikes ignited a fierce and passionate debate on Capitol Hill, specifically focusing on the extent of presidential war powers. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle voiced their concerns and opinions. Senator Tim Kaine, a prominent voice on foreign policy, spearheaded a resolution. The resolution aimed to limit President Trump's authority, particularly concerning military actions in the Middle East. It sought to prevent the president from unilaterally acting against Iran without explicit congressional approval, a move designed to reassert Congress's constitutional role in matters of war and peace. Supporters of the resolution passionately argued that Congress must retain a significant say in decisions that could lead to war, emphasizing the importance of checks and balances in foreign policy. Opponents, however, insisted that the president needed the flexibility to act swiftly and decisively in times of crisis, especially when facing unpredictable threats in a volatile region. The Senate debate was intense and at times quite heated, with passionate arguments echoing through the chamber. The debate vividly reflected the deep divisions within Congress and the nation as a whole, regarding foreign policy strategy and the appropriate balance of executive power. Ultimately, after days of deliberation and amendments, the resolution failed to pass, falling short by a narrow margin, 53-47. The vote handed President Trump a significant political victory, bolstering his position on foreign policy. It also provided a green light, signaling support for further action in the ongoing tensions with Iran. The White House's maximum pressure policy toward Iran remained intact, with the administration continuing its strategy of economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation. The decision sent a clear signal to allies, and to adversaries, it demonstrated that the administration had strong, albeit not unanimous, domestic backing for its approach to foreign policy challenges. For the time being, U.S. policy in the region would continue to be primarily set by the executive branch, with limited congressional constraints. The path forward, at least in the short term, was clear. A path of confrontation, rather than compromise, would define the immediate future of U.S.-Iran relations. Amid the crisis, rumors surfaced of a secret U.S. offer, $30 billion in aid for Iran to pursue a civilian nuclear program in exchange for halting enrichment. The idea sparked brief hope for a diplomatic off-ramp. International observers speculated about a possible breakthrough. But on June 28, President Trump took to social media to dismiss the reports as a hoax. He reaffirmed his hardline stance: no deals, no financial incentives, only pressure. The denial shut down speculation of a softer approach. The administration's message was clear: negotiation was off the table. The U.S. would not return to previous diplomatic efforts. The standoff would be resolved by strength, not compromise. Hopes for a peaceful settlement faded, the crisis deepened. In the aftermath, both Washington and Tehran claimed victory. President Trump declared Iran's nuclear program obliterated. Iranian leaders insisted damage was minimal and vowed to rebuild. The International Atomic Energy Agency stepped in to assess the truth. Satellite imagery confirmed significant damage, especially at Fordow, but the full extent was unclear. The IAEA's preliminary report suggested the reality lay between U.S. triumph and Iranian defiance. While the strikes disrupted Iran's program, total destruction was unconfirmed. On-site inspections were unlikely amid the ongoing crisis. The IAEA's findings left the long-term impact in question. Both sides used the uncertainty to bolster their narratives. The world was left guessing about Iran's true nuclear capabilities. The strikes and retaliation have transformed the Middle East. Hopes for diplomacy have vanished. The US and Iran are now locked in open hostility. US allies like Qatar find themselves on the front lines facing new risks. Regional powers may feel emboldened but also fear Iranian retaliation. The conflict threatens global energy supplies with the Strait of Hormuz at risk. International bodies struggle to mediate as the US doubles down on confrontation. The future is uncertain. Escalation or a tense, unstable stalemate both loom. The events of June 2025 have set off a chain reaction with global consequences. Leaders' choices in the coming weeks will determine the region's fate. The world stands at a crossroads, hoping to avoid disaster.